Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a member of the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Ranty Flat Earth, 10th Man, Righteous Force, Chocolate Saying, and I believe that's about it in G+. How you all doing?
Wonderful.
Good morning.
Doing good, Nath. How are you?
Very well, very well. No complaints. And we've also got a whole bunch of people in Discord. Hello, Discord server.
Hello from Discord.
Hello.
Hello. Now we're going to hopefully rattle our way through housekeeping very rapidly, because I want to get to Ranty, who, I'm really sorry, Ranty. I was so excited about him doing his presentation, and then after the show had finished and the after show finished, I went to my YouTube stream and there's Ranty going, yeah, I was supposed to do this on Flat Earth Debate, but obviously I've got to do it on my own now. So, yeah, I'm really sorry, Ranty, but we'll rattle our way through housekeeping. I did watch your video, that was excellent. Hopefully we'll get to it in a minute. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from Oxnard Beach.
Not on Earth.
Not in 2020.
Any signs of
Not
axial...
in Australia.
Not in Australia. Any signs of axial rotation?
No.
What is that?
Earth rotating about an axis.
No.
Earth is
Earth is what now?
Earth is not rotating.
No.
And
No,
an
there's
axis
nothing
in
to suggest
relation
that.
to what?
Yeah, there's nothing to suggest that. You're correct. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No measurable
We don't
evidence
even know
to
what the sun
distance to the
is.
sun.
No, we don't. No measurable
The,
distance.
li- the light in the sky.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
There's nothing scientific about it.
Surely you
that's for sure.
jest.
Get hit up Zach in
Surely.
a couple of weeks, maybe. I can give you a dictionary definition of gravity. Like
Good.
weight. Is that what you're looking for?
Not really scientific evidence, but feel free.
It's okay. That was just a joke. I don't really have it up right now.
No, fair enough.
Just it's another definition.
Well, moving on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
It's impossible
Never
for those
seen it.
fields to do a scientific method.
That's right.
No, so they're all pseudoscience fields then. Amazing.
There's
Spot on.
there's a video 3 hours worth of quotes from these people. None of them said anything about a hypothesis.
Of course not. They don't have any. They don't have science. Right, any evidence of the R value? Earth radius. Presupposition thereof.
Very
See question
presumptuous.
1.
Go again, Chocolate? I didn't hear you.
See question 1.
See question 1. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Right.
No, there isn't.
Oh, so then we can't have a radius then, can we?
Well, they can presuppose it and then plot the points based on that presupposed radius and then say, hey, look, we proved it. I automatically assumed that I was plotting these flat points out that are flat and level on a sphere, therefore proof of sphere. You can do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you don't really feel like playing on the really is level, but we like the really is level here, so.
No, you don't work on the really is level. You confirm it by comparing it to a model that already has that R value assumed, and then you don't need really is when you're working with models. They're not really is at all. They're just models.
Well, we don't call the Earth girth.
The Earth girth. Ranty got a chuckle. Right, moving on. Any signs of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of that presupposed spherical Earth?
Garbage, Nathan. No.
Not just garbage, hot garbage.
There's a lot of presupposing there.
Shout out to Paul Hall. He says, shout out to new baby... That Jesse. Ah, baby Jesse. Ah, shout out to Paul Hall. Oh.
Shout out, Paul.
Shout out to the
Congrats.
scientists that made s'mores with the core.
Lovely name. Really love it. Love
Congrats,
the name. Really
Paul.
nice. Really pretty.
Yeah, Paul. That's some really lovely news.
Excellent. Healthy baby. Wonderful.
Congrats.
Excellent.
Right, last but not by no means least, then I'm going to shout out a couple of new members. So, any evidence... Oh, then go on. Is that Ranty coughing?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
It's okay. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Nah.
No, fair enough. Let's move on to a couple of new members. So, Contraption, my latest penguin. No, Lion. I tell a lie. It's F.E. Dracula Deathwish that's the latest penguin, and Contraption, who's the latest lion. So thank you very much for joining the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel as a member. Really appreciate your support. Contraption and F.E. Dracula Deathwish. What a screen name. Absolutely love it. Ranty, are you with us? Oh, hold on. Got another member. I'm really sorry. I promise we will get to you. I promise. So, Dorian Gray has joined as a penguin. Shout out to Dorian Gray, latest member of Nathan Oakley 1980. I'll hold off any new members until you're done, Ranty.
No. I mean, if you don't want to hear this presentation, new members keep signing up.
Right on. But if I do during your presentation, I won't stop you, is what I'm saying, once you get going.
So, of course, yesterday we had Timmy Osmond came in.
And what is
Rams Cup, go ahead. You just knew it was going to happen. 2 seconds in. Go on, get it all out.
I had said, how do I become a member? And
Little join button. I don't know if it's translated over to the Apple products yet, but certainly from what Chocolate explained on his Android device, there's a little join button, and on a PC, there's a little join button. You click it. I set it at the cheapest level they could offer to be a member. So if you want to join as a penguin, it's a couple of dollars or a couple of pounds, I think, in my money. Anywho, right. Any more for any more?
You must have wished you'd done this a long time ago.
I've wanted members forever. Whoever said that, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I've wanted members forever since the first time I knew that they existed. I was like, I saw it as a menu in one of the magic boxes I used to run the show, and I'm like, turn on members only. Oh yeah, I'll definitely. How do you get that to work? And then looked into it. I'm like, oh, you need like 30,000 members, subscribers to do it. But then I found out that gamers were doing it. I'm like, well, they haven't got 30,000 subscribers. There's obviously some in-between stage where they'll give it you if presumably you're live streaming daily like I am or something like that. For whatever reason, I got them before I should have done. And it was like an unspoken target I got. I think it's actually 25,000 subscribers. I'm like, I really want to get to 25,000 to have members. So I'm made up about it. You know, I'm going to shout them out every time they join without fail. So yeah, I'm so chuffed. Anyway, I don't want to distract any more from Ranty. I'm already feeling guilty.
Don't forget your
the-
Patreons as well, Nathan.
your ability to have the join was refracted over.
We're seeing it from beyond 25,000 subscribers in. I don't want to put a number on it or jinx it. Right, no more jokes, right, everybody, please. So I'll cue him in, so this will hopefully stop everyone interrupting him. So Ranty's done a presentation, and he's talking essentially about the way the mathematics are worked up for obstruction in Earth curve terms, and then comparing it to things that give you physical, actual obstruction, shoaling and things of that nature. So hopefully that's a little bit of a brief warm-up for you to now not get interrupted continually, Ranty.
Yeah, no problems, Nate. Just let me get something set up so that you guys can... I'll just share my screen now. Hang on.
While he's doing that, so go and subscribe to Ranty Flat Earth channel. So Ranty Flat Earth.
Okay, right. I'm ready to present, Nate.
Yeah, I've got you on.
Okay, so about a year ago, we started looking into reasons as to why you sometimes see things like this. So you'll remember this. BM Furball put this video out, and I sent you this image immediately after watching his video. I took a screenshot of it, and I said, look at this image. It doesn't look right at all. The boat's sinking. Do you remember?
Yeah, like it was yesterday.
I remember that. Yep.
And I was like, what is going on in this place? And I'd just been looking into this phenomena called shoaling. And when I was scratching around looking for as much information as possible, there was very little of it about, or it seemed that I wasn't able to actually find any through my research. So I made it all up myself, basically, and worked out how this shoaling works, etc. Well, I started to look back into it about a week ago, and suddenly there's a plethora of stuff out there now about this effect called shoaling, and it seems that this has been available for many years. But for whatever reason, a year ago, when I started looking into it, there was nothing there. So I don't know whether it was just a glitch or something, but for whatever reason, I couldn't find the information. But this is what we came to this conclusion at the time, was that there was a shoaling effect happening in Hawaii. And what we've got here is we've got a boat that's maybe 2 or 3 miles away, because it's still in focus. The human in the foreground's in focus too. And BM Furball's obviously taken this image, and what you can see is the water line is physically higher than the boat, and it's by a good amount as well. I mean, you're probably talking 30 or 40 feet higher. Well, in appearance, 30 or 40 feet higher than the hull of the boat. And this boat, with it only being perhaps 3 miles away, you couldn't get that with earth curve. There's no way that you would have that much earth curve over that distance. So it was a case of, well, there's something else going on in this location. So let me show you that location up here. And we'd sort of come to this conclusion that when you go from the steeps to the shallows, you actually get this effect called shoaling, which artificially increases the height of water in certain locations. Now, Hawaii and Australia and South Africa and all that kind of stuff, there in prime locations for this sort of phenomena to happen. And if you put these sort of measurements in, if you go to we'll do it in meters, and you just go from, say, point A to point B, you go out, say, 3,000 meters. What you get is you get like a 1 in 10. In this case, it's down to 412 meters already at 3,000 meters. So it's about 1 in 9. But it's the slope, the gradual slope is quite severe. I'll show you that on an image. Let's see if I can find one over here. So yeah, this is what we're sort of looking at here. So from the shoreline here, and you've got this drop off, you've got a very, very severe drop off. So it's down to 400 meters already, and it's only 3,000 meters out. Well, that gives you a 1 in 9 gradient. And as the water pushes in, you get this shoaling effect right here. Well, what we found that there's a calculator available. So let's go up here and show you on this wave calculator, and this is excellent. It's called the Shallow Water Wave Calculator. It's operated by the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research. If I open that up in a new tab, it'll show you who these guys are. Serving the Earth system, science community, etc. UCAR manages the National Centre for Atmospheric Research on behalf of the National Science Foundation. So they're quite accredited people. This is who run this particular particular thing, and we're going to look into this shoaling effect. So if we go to Hawaii right now and we click on their surf report, let's just click on that one. We've got 3 feet. The primary swell is 3 feet every 13 seconds. So if we put that into the shoaling calculator, it should give us an idea of how much of an effect that vertical wave height is going to be in location of these choice with those parameters. So 3 feet at 13 seconds, if we calculate that, what we come down to is we come to 1 in 10 of these waves will be 8'2". 1 in 100 of these waves will be 10'2", and a maximum of 12'2". So even though the primary swell is just 3 feet, and this is on a moderate beach bar, this is on a moderate slope. This is only 1 in 33. This is not 1 in 10, which would be more severe. So in just a 1 in 33 slope, you're already at 1 in 100 waves is going to be 10'2", which essentially means if you've got your feet at the shoreline, let's go back to this guy here. So if you've got your feet at the shoreline here and you have a 3-foot swell, but it's in this area that's shoaling, you're going to get a 10-foot wave. That's the amplitude from the top to the bottom. So that means physically the wave is going to be 5 foot higher than your feet at the shoreline. So if you're taking an observation in Hawaii and you're trying to see a distant boat, and you've got this shoaling effect going on, you're going to have to be looking over a wave. Now, I think it's on this particular image. It might be on. Let me just find it. Just bear with me.
Also, can you just before you do that, Ranty, can you bring up BM Verbal? You just had it on BM Verbal's picture again, because now you've got what you've just described fresh in people's mind. You can now see that while you described it as apparently 30 feet, well, no, 5 feet, if it was that for the sake of argument in the near foreground, could cause 30 feet of obstruction of the boat in the distance. And that's precisely what you're describing. I just wanted it to be on screen after your description. Feel free to carry on. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, no worries. So from the shoreline, you're looking at this boat that's perhaps 3 miles away. You've got the shoaling effect that's artificially increasing the height of the water, giving you the appearance that this boat is actually sinking. So if we go over to this image here, so this is the clarifying everything really. So you've got the surf and the swash zone and your feet at the shoreline. And as you look out across this shoaling zone, the height of the waves there are much higher than the actual swell report, as you can search yourself and you can work out the calculations using that particular calculator. And what that actually means is if you're and obviously when you go beyond that shoaling zone, the water settles down again and you'll have a boat in the distance that you're trying to observe. So from the shoreline, you'll look across these waves and the bottom of the boat will be hidden behind physical water. Well, that is vertical water that's been pushed up due to this shoaling effect that happens in all of these locations that I've listed: Hawaii, New Zealand, Australia, all of those places that have the huge drop off near the shoreline. So whenever we see observations from people like Wolfie and things like this that are putting observations out where you actually see water physically hiding the bottom of a boat, you can refer back to this, look at the location where they actually took their observation from, put the parameters in, and what you'll most likely find is that if you've taken an observation from anywhere under 10 or 12 feet, you're going to see this obstruction due to this shoaling effect. And as I say, it can be calculated. I can put another calculation in right now. I mean, obviously this is just on a moderate beach. When you put a steeper slope beach, let's go up to the refraction area and we put this in and we move it up to steep. You're going to get a maximum of 13.2 feet. So even though that the height of the wave is 3, which 3 feet is the swell, which means only 1.5 foot is above your feet at the shoreline, whereas the maximum is 13.2, which means it's over 6 feet. So it's nearly 4 times the height of the wave. It's really important to understand this because every time that they've turned around and said, oh yeah, you've got blockage, you can't see, you've got physical things hiding this boat, it's going over the curve. Well, no, it's not. Let's find another one because I've just done that one. Let's go to this one. It decides to work. Working. Let's try this one. There you go. 5 feet every 9 seconds. So let's put this calculation in and go back to the shoaling, and we'll put 5 feet every 9 seconds is the length of the swell. And what we've got here is we've got a height maximum of 14.8 feet. So something to consider when we're doing our observations.
Excellent. Very well done, Ranty. Somebody in the chat who's now floated on by, I was going to read his comment, but he basically said, how is this translatable to the breaking waves at the shore? And in essence, it's the same principle. If something's being pushed up, like breakers, it's no different to this shoaling. It's the same exact principle. If something's big in the distance, but far away, and something small is higher up in the near foreground, it can obscure it.
Well, if you look online, what you'll see is you've got this swash zone. So the swash zone is what swells up at the shoreline. And right where my cursor is there is basically where your feet would be. You get these little waves lapping up at the shoreline. But where you get this steep incline as the water, where you get the shoaling effect, as you can see in this particular diagram, the wave itself is higher than the wave at the shoreline. And that's very consistent with what you find with this shoaling effect. So whatever you see at the shoreline lapping up is going to be different to what's actually happening in the shoaling zone, which is always going to have a higher wave than you at the here. And I know that this is like a wave lapping over, but you could also just arc it and it would just give you the same effect. It doesn't have to be a physical wave like this waving over in this shoaling area. This is just a diagram. But what it would do is it would just bulge the height in this location. So from your perspective, you're just going to see water. You're not going to literally see this wave in this area. This is just showing you the height of the wave. So from your perspective, you're going to look out and you're going to see water for as far as the eye can see. But what you're not realizing is that you're looking up at these waves because the waves are physically higher than your feet at the shoreline. And it's all determined upon the swell length and the height of the swell on that particular day. And obviously the steepness of the topography of the land here. But as I say, Australia, New Zealand, all these places where you get people putting videos out of you seeing a boat physically hidden by water. Well, it just takes a bit of research. It doesn't have to automatically be defaulted to Earth curve. When you actually check the area, you can check the days for what the swell report was on that particular day. You can check the location, you can check the steepness of the actual slopes, and you can figure this stuff out. And you'll see that actually it's more likely to be hidden just by this shoaling effect.
Excellent. Any more, Ranty?
No, that's it. That's all I've got for you today.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Far more concise
Is
than on your
that
own.
effect?
Go ahead.
Is that effect exaggerated or the opposite during an incoming or outgoing tide?
Well, no, you still get that same effect as the waters. It's the shoaling zone is like an area where the water pools. So it's the slowing of the water versus the water coming over the top of it. So it happens on both receding of the tide and the tide pushing in. So you're always going to get this effect.
Gotcha.
The thing is, with Ranty, the nice thing about this research is it's come from his own curiosity after going out and filming and going, what's causing this to happen? Why is the water rising up? So it's not like he's just tried to debunk somebody's picture. I know he put up in that very concise, formatted version for this show. Thank you, Ranty, that was so concise. BM Verbal's picture. Well, it's not like that. This is like, well, I don't know, easily 18 months of curiosity to get it that concise. Would you not agree?
So yeah, I mean, it all started, I think, from when I actually changed location and went to a place nearer to where I do my observations and tried to film the lighthouse, Walney Lighthouse, and I saw that same effect. I saw a physical blockage of water. It took me a couple of months to find out the reasons for that, and that was just because the area has this tidal bore that rushes up. And I checked the times when I recorded it, and it was the exact time that it was 2 hours before high tide, which is the perfect time to get this tidal bore in that location. And I was just like, that makes sense. So trying to get that information out for people to actually refer back to took a bit of, I don't know, the more I talk about it, the more Globers will say, well, you've just filmed obstruction, water obstruction. Well, it's just that they just don't want to appreciate that there's other reasons other than Earth curve for that. And once I started looking into this about how the topography of the land actually affects the water above it, it's like if you throw a stone in a river, you'll see as the water rushes over it, you'll have a little hump where the water's what goes over the top of the stone. Well, it's just the same as the land underneath the water. You know, when you've got the tides pushing in and pushing out, you are going to get these undulations of the water. It's just what happened.
But for them,
Ranty.
oh, just 1 second. Just want to add one closing point. For them, add it to the list of things we apparently are using as excuses for what they ultimately will only attribute one cause to. So your BM verbal picture, what's causing that? Well, earth curve's causing that, of course. Well, no, it doesn't matter that you've gone out and explored the terrain and figured out that there's something actually occurring. It's only going to be blamed on earth curve, because that's the only cause they assert when putting any observation through the perspective hijacking maths that is the earth curve calculator. So their only assertion can be earth curve. It can only be earth curve. Well, no, what about all these other effects? Oh, they're merely flat earthers' excuses. No, very well documented effects, not excuses for something that you assert your religious belief on. Ranty touched on it. It's like there is an excuse beyond earth curve. Well, it's not an excuse. It's an actual justifiable explanation for something blocking something else. Not earth curve. But their only cause is earth curve. Go ahead, 10th man. Sorry to cut you off. Thanks again.
No, it's all right. I got a question posed to me. Ask Ranty how long they last. So high tide, low tide, currents coming in and hitting that same area where it shoals, and you showed 3-foot swell, 5-foot swell. So how would you answer how long they last, since it's going to occur all the time because of deep water meeting shallow, right?
Well, of course it is. Yeah, I mean, the swell lengths are about what, anywhere from 10 seconds to say 18 or 20 seconds in length. So that's the how long that particular wave takes before you get to the next peak of the next one. But if you actually look at how far it's traveling up across those slopes, you know, it's traveling across those slopes for what, say, a mile, let's say. So you're going to get hundreds of waves in that as it's still going up that slope. So it's going to be a very constant upward push of the water. It's going to be constant because you're going to have 100 separate swell waves going up that slope at any one time. And because you're doing it as an observation, you're not on a boat, you're doing it as an observation, you have to consider that you're actually looking across the highest wave at any given time. You know, so when it gives you the swell reports that 1 in 100 waves is going to be, say, 10 feet high, well, if you're looking across 1,000 of those waves as they go up the slope, then you're looking across across at least 10 of them that are at that height. So you have to put that into your calculations when you're working this out, and you also get the receding of the tide as well. So the water's trying to push back down again, so it's meeting resistance from the water that's already there, which is going to push it back up as well. So it's exactly the same. Incoming, outgoing, it makes no difference. I think when Red Pill Philosophy did his video, and when I've done my good stuff, it's always been at the time when it's just got to low tide and it's on the turn. It's sort of like it's low tide and it's just on the turn. It's that point where you've not got any of this movement of the tides one way or the other. It's literally sort of stationary with no movements, and you've got to have no swell as well at the time. You know, there's got to be no swell in the location. With those particular parameters, you get very flat water and you can see a very, very long way. But I don't know how that works in Australia and New Zealand, because those runoffs are so severe where I live. From where I live all the way to the Isle of Man, you know, it only goes down to about 60 meters, you know, over like 60 miles. So you can go for 60 miles. It only ever goes to a depth of about 60 meters. But in New Zealand, you go a mile out and you're already probably a half a mile down, you know. So,
well, I could give you personal experience of with my boat going from Newport to Catalina. There's a certain part that immediately drops, I believe, over a couple of miles right off the coast of Newport Beach, California. And I've experienced this in my small boat. I don't know if it's the same thing that I'm verifying here, but you could see from the boat as you go out the different currents coming at you from the ocean towards the coast. And there are high points and low points right at that area where the water gets the deepest. So I may have experienced this and not known it was shoaling.
Yeah, there was a guy that came into my chat yesterday, and he lived in the location. He lived in Hawaii. I'm just going to find his. They lie, Ohio. There we go. So he came in yesterday, and he'd said to me that actually he lived in Hawaii and he saw this effect firsthand. Now he's a globe earther, and he said that he could look out from Hawaii and he would see that the water was raised up higher than he was, and he couldn't put his finger on why until I started explaining about this, and I got him to confirm this at the start of my video. And got him to say it again, basically repeat the same thing, that this is what he saw firsthand. So on that image that I showed you from BM Furball, which just does show that the water's higher, that it's higher than the person that's fishing off the shoreline. So, you know, I mean, it's an effect that is visible and you can see it, and it's documented. I mean, that's why I brought up the company that actually made this particular calculator, and it's the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research. So they know that this is an effect, and you can put those parameters in it, and it will tell you what the height of the water is going to be in those locations. And it doesn't take a genius to work out that every continent in the world, every single continent, is surrounded by water. So anytime we do these long distance observations of boats over the seas, the oceans and stuff, you've got to take into account this effect of shoaling. You've got to, because we all live on continents and we're all surrounded by water, and we're all surrounded by shelves, you know, underneath the water that can affect the height of the water.
I'll just do a quick shout out to Doug. So I actually interviewed Nathaniel Oakley about 3 or probably 4 years ago now. He's the dude in the thumbnail for the debates that looks like he's got a bazooka, actually a telescope, on his shoulder. That's Doug. So yeah, big shout out to Nathaniel. He may be a glober. I think he's more on the fence and doesn't. Although if pushed, he'd say he was a glober. He's been around longer than most people who are here. He's just very low key, keeps himself to himself. Very good guy, nice guy. So yeah, big shout out to Doug. Also, shout out to Dank, my latest member. So thank you very much to Dank for joining, my latest penguin. Good to have you. And also, hello Brian and hello Arwin. Very good to have you on the panel.
Hey Randy, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing, which is the Globers have started to turn around and say, well, why don't you just film from higher then? You know, I mean, if you've got this swell that's going to be physically blocking you and stuff, well, the problem you're running when you start going higher is that you've now got to look through the atmosphere. And if you check your weather report wherever you live, if you go to the correct weather reports will turn around and say, well, on this particular day, you've only got a visibility of, say, 10 kilometers or 12 kilometers or 15 kilometers. So if you've only got a very small visibility range due to the conditions of the air, then, you know, you're going to get that you're still going to encounter things disappearing because you just can't see far enough. So they'll say, well, go higher. So you go higher, you go to 50 feet. But then the horizon in the globe model is 10 miles away. Well, what happens if you can only see for 8 miles because the visibility isn't as good? You know?
As well as that, Randy, a lot of the observations that the globers come at us with this effect in it, they're taken from the south, in places like, as you said, with the big drop off like Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii. The thing about it is that it's very hard to get details of them as to what they are. They just produce one picture and that's it, and they won't tell you any more about it. But the thing about it is, with they right there is, I lived in the southern, well, I won't call it the southern hemisphere, but the southern part of the plane, and there's no big, and I visited other parts, there's no big tide like we get here. The tide goes out and comes in like, it's nearly not noticeable sometimes. That kind of way. Whereas, so that would be a constant effect there a lot of the time. Now, for some reason or other, they tried to get their photographs of that effect late in the evening. That's what nearly all the photographs are from late in the evening. Maybe it's because of the extra atmosphere issue or something like that to kind of personify it. But you know, the tides you get where you live and where I live, they're going to go way out and come way back in. But that doesn't happen there. You just don't see it. You know, so that's a constant day. So they can get those kind of observations on a regular basis, you know, and call them curve, because they're going to nearly always be there. You're not going to.
It's interesting stuff. It's things that the Globers won't touch upon really. But I did have Conspiracy Cats come in. I looked back at the video and Conspiracy Cats jumped in and said, you know, I can't remember exactly what he said actually, but it was along the lines of this is sort of like interesting research or something like that. So clearly, you know, if you've got an open mind about stuff, you can actually look into this and, you know, sort of like make different conclusions other than just defaulting back to Earth curvature.
There's actually a place not too. Am I speaking over someone?
No.
No. There's actually a place not too far away from me, just a few miles up the road, and there's actually a sandbar nearly all the time that goes across this channel, and this is actually the biggest lagoon in Europe. This place I'm talking about, and this actual effect, if I remember right, is probably happening at it all the time. But it's not a huge, because the sandbar is not huge. It's not. There is a big influx of water comes in and goes out, but it wouldn't be hugely noticeable. But this sandbar is only like 200 meters away from the beach. You're not going away, and you have this same thing happening where, where especially when it's hot, it seems like the water is higher at that point than the water behind it. Nearly, you're not going away.
Yeah, and my whole point about this was that the globers need us to have a flat surface. So whenever they put these calculations in about, let's go back to Genifredo, for instance. Genifredo filmed across a lake and saw a distant shoreline. When it transpired that, you know, all these globers descended on a channel and said, hey, that's with standard refraction, that will be perfect for the globe model. She'd actually give herself an arbitrary height of 6 feet above actual sea level, right? Well, shore level, you know. But when I went back and I checked the data for that particular time, the wind speeds and the actual swell that was happening in the location, you found that there was like 5 or 6 feet of actual height of the waves that were between her and the target that she was trying to see. So at most, she could only have been 1 foot above actual sea level because she was looking across these waves. When you put those calculations back into it, it doesn't match the globe model at all. So, you know, I mean, it's just something that needed to be sort of like looked back upon. A lot of these observations in the past where the globers have always tried to put what's your height of your camera next to the shoreline, and excluding everything else, exclude the wave heights, exclude the shoaling effect, exclude all them, because they say that flat earthers only believe in flat water. Well, yeah, flat water with no forces acting upon them, yeah, it's going to be flat. And that's why when we get these conditions, we see a very long way. But when you've actually got some movement of the water, you know, you need to subtract that from your calculations. And as soon as you start doing that, every foot you take off, you start to put another nail in the coffin. You know, so just this idea that you can be in Hawaii and you have to look physically over a hump of water in front of you that's caused by this effect, this shoaling effect, sort of like negates any observations from that location, from the shoreline, you know, because you're always going to get 6 foot high waves in front of you. You're always going to get that. Same in Australia, New Zealand, you're always going to get this effect.
Yeah, even an offshore breeze can give you 2 foot waves, you know, out where you are trying to see, you know, and a 2 foot wave, as you even said yourself before, can block out a 20-foot long boat, you know, due to angular size change. Even a 60-foot long boat, it depends on how far away it is. But a 2 foot wave or a 2 foot movement on the water is big enough due to angular size to block out something that's very big, that's a good distance away. You know, the Globers one, what they're always asking now is, show me a boat at 50 miles away. No matter how you get the biggest boat in the world, you won't see it 50 miles away if you have to get so small.
No,
that's.
I've seen one at 29 miles from around about 10 feet above sea level. I have it on my channel. I was with Tony when I actually filmed it, but that's the furthest boat I've ever seen.
I bet you that was probably a pretty big one too.
It was a big boat.
I think the biggest boat in the world is an oil tanker or something like 1.2 miles long or something like that. But something crazy like that. Maybe it's not that big, but it's huge anyway. But you're not going to see this anywhere close to shore. This won't be this big tanker or whatever it is won't be moving around close to the shores we'll be at. And the thing about it is that 50 miles away, you know. Hello, Nathan said something. But 50 miles away, you're not going to see it. You know, the angular size will be able to get into small. I reckon anyway.
Have the Globers got anything to say about this?
Yeah, it's all Earth curve. Always Earth curve.
Share your pain.
No, the globers just block out the sun with a couple of fingers.
Well, Ranty said it already. Their only excuse for anything of this nature is Earth curve. They've only got one cause.
I don't know how they can deny this research, though, because unlike Mick West in his curve calculator, that includes something that's been totally not proven, this idea that ambient light can be bent around the sphere of shape of the Earth, that's just nonsense. It's just fairy tale fantasy. This is actual data that you can actually measure. You can actually go out and you can do this, which is why this atmospheric research stuff is coming very handy, because you can actually document with a calculator what these heights of these waves are going to be. So this is proper research, science, proven science that can be done. This isn't made up stuff. This isn't looming. This isn't refraction of light. This is actually the movement of water and how water behaves. But the globers don't want you to understand how water behaves, because they want you to live on a perfectly flat water, so that their measurements can make sense. Because as soon as you start to put movement on the water, then that screws with their measurements, their Earth curve calculator.
Speaking of which,
it's crazy
quantum
because I'm in the Discord chat, and so I'm asking, what does anyone think about it? And the first thing that they say is, because I see them having their arguments about you flat earthers are retarded, and they don't even watch the show. So forget the fact that they're not watching the show. They're not actually listening to any of the arguments being presented. They're just here to troll. One person in particular, I'm not saying he's trolling, he just said that basically what you just presented was water being higher in the middle of water or something like that. His exact point was, he presented waves being higher in the middle of the water. And I said, and he said, where does that ever happen? So I'm pointing out the fact that you're detailing a real thing, something that actually happens, and they're basically saying it's not a thing. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, I'll say it again. It's the third time. They only have one cause. So whatever effect is presented, it doesn't exist. It's only ever Earth curve. These are fundamentalists. Only their religious belief applies. None of these effects are real, even though they're well documented. They're just merely excuses made by flat earthers to deny that Earth's a sphere. That's all that they think they are. Excuses for us denying their religion.
I just want to say, what was just being said there about these waves. The shoaling effect is not going to give you a big wave up over the bar. You're not going to have a big load of breaking waves everywhere. Mostly, it's just going to be what exactly is shown to us by the borders in the pictures. It's just going to be a big swell of water. You're not going to have a breaking wave all the time. Mostly, it won't be that. Would I be correct in saying that, Randy?
Yeah, the way I view it is it would be a lift in the relative height of the water in those locations. So, I mean, your feet at the shoreline, as I say, they're going to be at the shoreline. The water's going to be touching your toes. But when you look out a mile and a half out to sea, the water in that location, if you went in a perfectly straight line and you had it all leveled out, the water in that location is probably going to be 5, 6, 7, 8 feet high than where your feet are at the shoreline. And it's going to be a gradual push up, because that's the nature of how this push, this force of the water pushing up the slope, is going to have an effect on it. It can't just spread out. It has to go up as well. So it does go out a little bit, but it also goes up, and this can be measured.
Ranty, this is so obvious. Living in California, I bodyboarded, body surfed, and surfed. And I could tell you on countless occasions, just sitting there waiting for the swell to come in, I could see that the wave was, oh, here's a big one. And then by the time it got in, it was real small. This is so obvious. It's ridiculous. Every surfer has seen what you're talking about.
Yeah, and obviously that's the swell where you get the gigantic swells. But you know, we're talking about also these little swells. You know, with just a couple of feet swell, this magnitude of this effect, the shoaling effect, can turn the 2 foot swell, which is only 1 feet above your feet, by the way, because you've got the crest of the wave to the top of the wave, and so it's everything. You half that. So if the swell height is 2 feet, it's only 1 feet above you, above the midpoint. But this, even a 2 foot swell can be amplified into an 8 foot swell, you know, just by this effect. So it doesn't even take it doesn't take a lot of swell to actually make blockage, you know.
And surely a big part of the swell is because of intermolecular bonding, the very thing that gas doesn't do. You know, it has to be. That's why the water can do that as intermolecular bonding. It's halfway between a gas and a solid.
Just real quick, Ranty, because sorry about my background noise, but you've touched on it, and I want people to really understand how to take your argument to the street. Because again, someone in the chat said, I'm 10 feet above sea level looking at a target 12 miles away. How much do the waves hide? Now, the thing is, in order to answer that question, we would need certain information. And how would we go about looking at areas and what this effect is supposed to be doing to any given area?
Do you want to answer that, Ranty, or?
You can answer that, Nath, if you've got
I was
an
going to
answer.
say, it depends on the person that's asking. So if the person that's asking is just intrigued at how an image is made up, then you can do what Ranty's done. You can go out and investigate the topography. You can find out a bit more about the land, maybe do some groundwork and actually go and physically visit the place and have a look at how the land lies. However, if you're dealing with a fundamentalist religious zealot, and I've said this 3 times already, they've only got one cause. So the quicker way, rather than doing all that just for them to decide that they don't agree with anything you've gone out and done, even though you're just having a little look, is to ask them what causes it. Ask them what their cause is. Well, what do you say causes that? And I can bet you £1 it's going to be the single cause they assert. You know what they're going to say? Have a guess.
Of course.
They're going to say Earth curve. It's the only thing that causes anything to disappear into the distance. So you can go on your merry way and investigate it if you so desire, and you have an insightful, intrigued mind like Ranty's, and then you'll come back with the same information he's come back with. But that information essentially says that, no, it's unreasonable to immediately just assert that this is caused by Earth curve, your religious belief that causes all things in this instance. And if it doesn't quite match up with Earth curve, you'll bend light at 7/6 of the presupposed radius to make it match. None of this shoaling will ever come into it.
Well, Ranty brought up the Earth curve calculator a few minutes ago, and Quantum Eraser did a part on that yesterday. So even if we use their Earth curve calculator, right, at 1 foot observer height, the distance to the horizon maximum, okay, is 1.22 miles. Well, we have validation with pictures and ourselves seeing things over 9 miles. So even their Earth curve calculator disproves Earth curve.
Yeah, it disproves it by way of physicality that they have necessitated in their reification of a heliocentric sphere Earth by way of horizon. Horizon being a not actual location, a physical edge to a sphere being an actual location, a physical hard edge that obscures things. And in this instance, the horizon can be no more than the set distance if it's a physical obstruction. It can't loom up.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about it, right? The curve calculator presupposes the curve, and then it destroys the curve. So, nice 1-2 combo right there.
Yeah, you put this mathematics through the Earth curve calculator. Do you know what it's going to give you a result as? Earth curve. It's an Earth curve calculator. So that's the only thing that can be the result of that calculation. Now, the fact that there are other aspects, many of them, they've been listed as quote-unquote excuses by flat earthers. No, people who are intrigued and looking at their world rather than just accepting that anything disappearing in the distance is caused by Earth curve. So, yeah, we get ridiculed for having a look. And what do you know? There's actual research been done by people who aren't Ranty that he's discovered after the fact because he's got an intrigued mind about the nature of his world. That's it. Does that deserve ridicule? Absolutely, because it's Earth curve. No, it isn't. That's just your automatic assumption if you're a fundamentalist, religious zealot with a heliocentric belief. A religion, basically.
Can I just say that
up,
this is bloody great work, Ranty?
I agree.
The progress you've made in this particular area of our debate has really come along, and it's really great to see.
Yeah,
Okay.
fucking A. Ranty's amazing. How dare you even
Hell yeah.
question for a moment that he isn't brilliant. Ranty's brilliant. Yeah, I'm just joking. Yeah, I agree. Ranty's ace.
Now he's leading the way when it comes to this part of our debate, of our discussions, and he's out there doing the work, and it's really good to see results are coming from it. So that's really good.
Yeah, always give these things with a shit sandwich. So you have to say, Ranty can be a bit of a wanker. He was really nasty to Arwen recently. But on the other hand, he's at the forefront of research. But nevertheless, wanker. That's how you do it.
On that
Shit
note,
sandwich.
who won the toady?
Who won the... Oh, right, okay. You want to know that now?
Not unless it's something that you haven't revealed on your own channel yet, as it's your kind of series.
I haven't revealed it on my own
Don't tell
channel
us
yet.
then. No, don't tell us.
I may do it later, actually. Yeah, I think I might.
When are you doing it? Later, before the after show, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I might do it about 4 p.m, so just over an hour or so.
Tell us on the after show, because then that's broadcast after.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, I'll do it in the after show if you want.
Cool.
And then
Yeah, just don't tell the live audience. You'll find out on the after show. Subscribe to Nathan Oakley channel if you're not already. Link in the info box. My second channel's just called Nathan Oakley. That's where the uncut and after show goes out, in case that wasn't clear.
I was saying, just normal people, when things got out of our viewing site, we just said, hey, that's too far to see. These fundies come on and they say it's Earth curve.
QE was saying yesterday about the 1 foot observation. It's 1.22 miles away to the horizon with a 1 foot observation. Ranty's 1 foot observation, because I know because he gave me the video to download, shows buildings at 18 miles, a shoreline at 13 miles, and it shows looming in them way up in the air where it's supposed to be. So that's everything they need,
No, if they come on with the Earth curve calculator next time, we should pull it up, put the 1 foot, and say, oh, so you're saying the hard edge of your horizon is 1.22 miles? Is that what you're saying, Fundy? The horizon's 1.22 miles away from me if I lay down on the ground and I'm a foot high?
Yeah, it has to be.
These horizon distances absolutely destroy the globe model.
Yeah, I didn't get it when QE first explained it to him. I was like, this is really squirrely. It doesn't make any sense. You're talking about an actual location. And then it suddenly dawned on me when he laid it out on yesterday's show. I'm like, yeah, this is how you debunk an actual physical leading edge of a sphere obstruction versus the not actual location of the horizon. Because it can't be further than that. Looming is not covering that. It's stuff in the distance looming up above the horizon, not the horizon being further than you should see if it's a physical obstruction. It debunks the notion that they've got a leading edge of a sphere. It's back to this. Where's your edge, fundies?
I think more than anything what it does, Nath, is it proves flat water. And you can't have flat water on the globe model because water, being a liquid, is supposed to be being pulled to the center of the Earth at a rate of 8 inches per mile squared. It's very simple. The water cannot defy gravity in their model, so you can't have flat water.
And with that, I'll say if you are watching this on Nathan Oakley premiering stream on my second channel, subscribe below, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 member. Smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making this live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!